guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're back to discussing Sarah Brady. The reason why we're back on this topic, which I didn't really plan on coming back to unless there were some big developments like Jonah Hill saying something, anything, which I honestly don't think he's going to, mainly because of what I'm going to discuss now. Sarah Brady came out and discussed Jonah Hill and his behavior when they were together. Now, a lot of the people that I saw on social media took Sarah Brady's side and in fact thought that Jonah Hill was being controlling, weird, manipulative, and a whole series of other not great adjectives, let's put it that way. There were a lot of people who were also on Jonah's side, to be fair, who were saying that he was expressing his boundaries. Like I said in my prior video, I really didn't come to a big conclusion other than saying, yes, this looks bad, this also looks bad. But that doesn't lead us to a final, yes, he's a narcissistic abuser, yes, she is toxic or whatever. I didn't really come to that because I just don't feel like I have enough information for any of that. The reason why I want to talk about this today is because the narrative has very quickly changed, and we see that a lot on social media, but I still feel almost flabbergasted every time I see it because I see some people dig their heels in so deep and be so sure, yes, so-and-so is the victim, so-and-so is the abuser, and then within 48 hours, something changes, and granted, if everything changes, that's a different story. But here, nothing really major occurred in my opinion, from my understanding. The only thing that happened is that Sarah Brady posted more stories on her Instagram, and people from there were being like, now she's doing too much, she's taking it too far, she shouldn't have shown screenshots. And there are a lot of things that we're going to talk about, but I'm just going to say the whole narrative, I'd say perspective around this since my prior video is completely different, and I think that's worth noting in and of itself. Also, it's important to note that things don't have to be mutually exclusive in the sense that they can both be wrong, they can both have been toxic. It doesn't have to be that there's only one person who's entirely right and one person who's entirely wrong, and that's really what I'm seeing with the discourse. I'm gonna read a couple stories from her Instagram story. Now, like I said, people were having problems with how many Instagram stories she posted. Now, if you look at these screenshots, you can see above how many Instagram stories there are. There are a lot. There are a lot of Instagram stories where she's sharing voice memos that she's sent to people. I'm not going to play those here. If you want to listen to those, you can. Here she says, I'm always aware that good intentions do not always equal solely good results. For example, sharing private text messages on social media is typically not a nice or appropriate thing to do. However, in this situation, I decided that the potential benefits outweigh the possible consequences. Example, being viewed as a mean person for sharing our convos. So in this voice memo, she mentioned something allegedly about got so close to becoming pregnant. Like I said, I don't feel comfortable listening to the voice memos. I prefer just reading whatever is posted. I do think that there is something to be said about sharing the text messages. And the reason why I say that is I'm not one who likes to share conversations. In fact, in the few situations I have been in, I really haven't posted screenshots of anything because it's really not my way of doing things. And I feel like when you trust people, you're not going to run to post conversations even if that person fucks you over. That being said, if she didn't post screenshots, would you have believed anything she said? Probably not. And it's valid not to, because anyone could get on social media and be like, hey, Jonah Hill said this to me. And granted, screenshots can be doctored. She could have put a fake contact name on someone who actually did send those texts. Like, there are plenty of things that could have happened that would have made it so that it wasn't Jonah Hill and she was pretending. But if she didn't show any proof whatsoever that it was him and that he said these things, nobody would have listened. So I can't really say that I'm shocked that she shared it. Do I generally agree with sharing screenshots? No. But if someone is claiming to have been abused, manipulated, blah, 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 I don't really think sharing screenshots is your first problem. She also says, this is why I included the parts of our last conversation where I was harsh. Reactive abuse happens when a victim lashes out against their abuser, physically or verbally. Unlike with mutual abuse, reactive abuse only occurs after the victim is pushed to a breaking point. The abuser may use the victim's reaction as a way to manipulate the narrative. All the people out there going through this know what I'm talking about. I'm here in solidarity with you. She then said, don't remember the date on this one, kept them all in a hidden folder for a reference for myself when I was feeling like I was losing my mind and was terrified of him ever finding it. So this is a text message allegedly from Jonah that says, so think about if posting bathing suit pictures on your social media identity, whatever that means that much to your life, and if it does, all good, but that's not what I'm interested in a partner. anymore. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if you had any sense of how often or how excessive it was and is. So therefore, it presents a way larger issue of why you need to do that and not in wetsuits to display your brilliant surfing skills. One I'm willing to discuss in therapy, but the truth underneath it presents a way larger issue, which is what you need and get out of doing that, and what that means for our relationship. So yeah, I'm clear-headed, and then it gets cut off. Like I said, people can have their own boundaries, but like I also said, I'm pretty sure Jonah Hill, if what I'm seeing online is true, DM'd her responding to a picture of her in a swimsuit on a surfboard. So is it a shock that she is effectively wearing swimsuits in her pictures? No. She's also a surfer, so by definition, unless you're expecting a ski suit, I really don't know what to tell you. This, to me, is more than just boundaries, because it's not about changing a behavior, it's about changing a way of life and career, potentially. If you already know that you're gonna have a problem with something, you mention it immediately and see if it can be fixed, but you don't wait to touch on the subject, which allegedly is what happened here, apparently. But again, we don't know. So then she also posted, seeing publications and public figures stating that I'm trying to portray my ex as a monster when I have multiple times said he is not a monster, and the manipulation I experienced could have been coming from him subconsciously, yet it is still emotionally abusive. Why is it so hard to get that part of my message included? She also posted a story featuring a tweet by Dr. Jessica Taylor, and she was mentioning in her stories DARVO, which stands for deny they did anything wrong, attack the person who is challenging them, reverse victim and offender, where they reposition themselves as the real victim in a situation they caused, where they are the aggressor and their victim is now totally powerless. Then she approached the topic of the timing, which a lot of people had an issue with. People were wondering, why is she only saying this now? Why didn't she say this earlier? Which is a talking point that a lot of the people who are trying to discredit her are using. So she said, would it have been better if I shared earlier? When would it have been the right time? Should I not have considered the mother of his child at all? Should I not have considered how psychological stress on a pregnant person can create physical stress on the fetus? Or are the people criticizing me for my timing actually just saying I should have taken this information to my grave? Which personally I think is a valid point, because I actually do think that no matter when she voiced this, there would have been a problem. Because either he would have moved on and just had a new girlfriend, so people would have said, oh yeah, she's doing this for revenge. If she said it immediately, they would have said that she was doing it because the relationship ended and she didn't want it to end. Like, there's always going to be a reason you can find as to why someone's making shit up. Timing, sure, can be a reason to doubt things, of course, but in this particular case, since everything happened to some extent between four walls, it's not like we can check, yes, this happened so and so day, so if she said this that day, then we can't check that. So I don't really think there's much of a point of focusing on timing in terms of when she decided to say something. Also, because if we really do get into the topic of abuse, people process things differently, and some people take a really long time to understand what happened to them. Some people less. Some people are still in the relationship when they realize. Some people take years. I don't really feel comfortable saying, yes, because she took 2 years or however long, it's obviously not true. Like, if we're gonna say something's not true, let's use something concrete. She says, yes, my ex doesn't have the best reputation in Hollywood. However, he has recently branded himself as the mental health guy, and many people believe he has changed his ways a lot since his 20s, especially because he has branded himself this way. I felt it was important to share my personal experience with him. In my opinion, he hasn't changed much. He's just found new tactics to manipulate with, whether that manipulation is conscious or not. Then she said, yes, it's tacky and a violation of privacy to share private messages. However, the reality is, when someone is in an emotionally abusive relationship, screenshots are sometimes the only pieces of evidence they have to prove what happened to them was real. And of course, my situation is unique because my ex is a public figure, but I believe this is an important conversation to start amongst the community of survivors of emotional abuse. Is there a right way to document your abuse and share it so that you are not alone in your perception? Now, it appears that someone else has come forward with allegations against Jonah Hill. I don't really want to discuss that just yet, simply because I have only just come across it. I haven't really seen much else, in the sense of there are only a couple lines about it all, so I don't want to just tell you something if I can't really fact check anything. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Have you seen people's perspective change? Did your perspective change? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.